Hi, everybody. Welcome to GW Center for Integrative Medicine YouTube channel. I'm your co-host, Dr. Kogan, Medical Director and Associate Professor of Medicine at George Washington University. So those of you who've been following our work know that I'm getting increasingly engaged in environmental medicine or not just, and I'm not talking just about climate change, I'm just talking about anything related to health. Whether it's a harm or benefit from current situation in our environment. And so wonderful article today. Let me just start sharing my screen and then I'm going to walk you through what I'm going to talk about. So I'm closely following this news called MedPage today. And just today, they basically announced that there's a very big news that EPA now will make polluters pay for cleanup of the forever chemicals. So there's two particular chemicals. We're going to talk mostly about PFAS, but the two specific ones are the perifluorooctanoic acid, known as a PFOA, and also perifluorooctasulfurinic acid, known as PFOS. I know it's a mouthful, and I probably butchered the pronunciation over here, but those are the two big ones. So what are these molecules? Well, they are very slowly breaking down pollutants. They take decades, and the reason they call forever is because actually they stay in an environment so long that there's a continuous accumulation. They constantly add to our environment, and we're constantly exposed. And they've been known for a very long time. They started to be produced probably about 60 or 70 years ago. Originally, they were produced by Purdue. And you know most of them as chemicals coming from in the different pens and basically Teflon products. So those are the containers that would basically cookware that will have a non-sticky surface. And that non-sticky surface, despite their claims that they're not leaking into the food, they are. And it's been known for a long time. The science is very crisp, clear. There's not a lot of discussion about it. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to share a screen again, and I'm going to show you the resource, which I think is actually the best resource in terms of learning about this and also in terms of getting more educated, but more importantly, to sort of figure out how you're going to clean your act and how do you get rid of these substances in your life. So this is Environmental Working Group. If you go to their main site, and you go to search, you can just put the clicker over here and put in a search the wording PFAS, and what you end up with the whole resource page. So if you click on this, it takes you over here and you have all kinds of details. Particularly what I suggest you do when you scroll all this, you're not going to read everything. There's pages and pages of data. But when you can start with just the top, you can basically say, what are these chemicals? And it'll walk you through the history. It will walk you through, for example, there was a major scandal in West Virginia in 2001 when patients or people who were living close to DuPont plants were having a cancer at a very high rate. And there's even a film made about this that's called The Devil We Know, and actually a really interesting movie. And this was the first major act when there was a proof that, yes, DuPont knew about the leak into the water and didn't do anything about it. And obviously their class action and successful compensation for some people. But, so the resources here, if you go down over here, you can simply type in your address, your email, and they will send you a free guide. It does not cost you nothing. So this would be an electronic digital copy of it. You can also get all of this information from this website. If you go back here, you can find the details. For example, you can click here and it'll tell you how you're going to avoid exposures. And it tells you exactly what particular clothing has it. It'll tell you what swimwear would have it in the clothing. It'll tell you, for example, what kind of water locations where you will end up seeing this. It'll tell you what chemicals you should want to avoid. Obviously Teflon So use, in our household, we use almost exclusively non-stick, basically just a cast iron, which probably is the safest. So you can't fully protect yourself against being exposed. You also can't fully protect yourself, I think, from the negative impact, simply because there's some amount will always end up in your system. And this substance is a highly toxic at a very, very small amount. They linked strongly to a variety of cancers and not just endocrine cancer. These substances are all endocrine disruptors also. But they link to all kinds of cancers. They link to a lung cancer and testicular cancer and to breast cancer and to prostate cancer and possibly many, many others. So what can you do in addition to just try to, you're going to read all this and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to get rid of the old Teflon. I'm going to get rid of some of these chemicals. I'm not going to use some of the wrappers and plastic and heat it up, particularly like you really don't want to put plastic and heat it up in a microwave, for example. But what else can I do? Well, you can, as we talked in the past, strengthen other forms of your detox system so that simply your system puts out these chemicals more, that it effectively gets rid of them and kind of keeps the level as low as possible. The saunas and hydrating well and keeping your liver tuned, avoiding other toxins, taking some herbs, maybe taking N-acetylcysteine that boosts production of glutathione. So lots of different things. I covered some of them on this channel before. And I also want to bring up a couple of other really kind of a bit more different or unique points. So for example, one I think would be quite important is when you think about all of these toxins, you're probably thinking, well, can I know whether I'm exposed specifically? And the answer is yes and no. So yes, there are tests which we occasionally run in our clinic that can check your urine for all of the metabolites of all kinds of pesticides, forever chemicals, including the PFAS that we're covering today. The question is a little more complicated. So let's say we find that you have an elevated level. Will it change how you should be living your life? And in my opinion, it does not. Whether you have that high level or not, I think the general principles must be maintained by everybody. Everybody should engage in some continuous lifelong detoxification processes. Everybody should try to minimize exposures as much as possible. Again, you're not going to minimize it to zero, but you can minimize it to some reasonable extent. And the most significant things like particularly cooking with non-stainless steel that has Teflon, that has all those forever chemicals, probably the largest, and also, of course, filtering your water. So those are the two things that are probably the most important ones that you should be doing regardless whether you're in an area where you may have a PFAS in the water. And by the way, that's about half of the America. So that's over 100 million people live in the area that is known to be polluted. The water is polluted. Again, the EWEG guide that I put out earlier, and of course, I'll put all the links in the description of the video so you can click on it. If you live in one of those areas, that gets more important for you. But even if you're not, you're probably still exposed to some of it. So hopefully this was helpful. I'll see you back soon covering all things integrative medicine and how to stay healthy. And again, the links are in the description, and please do subscribe if you like this information so you get updates on the upcoming videos as soon as they come out. And also this does help the channel. See you soon. Take a good care of yourself. Stay safe in this dangerous and toxic world. Take